Here, I always felt like there was God and then there was me, and it was very hard for me to understand or to even comprehend any personal relationship with God. In my youth, I got into a group called Young Life, and went to a summer camp, and a bunch of friends of mine and I went to a summer camp, and so I became a Christian through that experience. And you know, towards the last day when they you know, have you stand up and, you know, say if you want to give your life to Christ, go ahead and stand up. And so I stood up. We kind of, when we got back, things didn't really change. You know, I'd like to say I had one of those epiphany moments where, you know, I felt like the Holy Spirit took over, and you know, I didn't experience that, and I thought, well, maybe I didn't try hard enough, or after that, I got involved with a Christian church. It was actually a Mennonite church, so I went from Catholic church to going to a Mennonite church. There for a couple of years, and was actually baptized in that church, and learned a lot. But I never really, I always felt like either I didn't grasp it or I didn't experience really a personal relationship with God. And I just didn't feel like I was really connected to God. And I eventually got into a career in law enforcement, and just through that career, I mean, it's in that job you end up seeing and dealing with a lot of stuff. Unfortunately, I've seen a lot of what the evil that one person can commit on another person, you know, some of the bad stuff that people do to each other. You know, a very successful career. I'm very analytical. And so I think that's one of the things that helped me succeed. And I got into investigations, ultimately crime scene investigations, and that even got me deeper into, you know, doing homicides, murders, and, you know, all the stuff that you see on television. But it's not like TV. And I found myself internalizing a lot of stress. In order to deal with the stress, I wasn't a drinker, wasn't a heavy drinker, didn't fall into prescription pills or anything like that. The stress manifested itself as anger. So I had a lot of just pent-up anger that I tried really hard to mask, to contain. I never had any problems at work. I was always at work very polite, very cordial, easy to get along with. But where it really came out was at home. So much so that it destroyed my first marriage. So after my divorce, I kind of insulated myself, got very insular with myself, and kind of just decided that if probably the best way to deal with this, to be somebody that has to deal with all this anger, is to kind of deal with it alone, to be alone. I met Kelly, my second wife, and we had a child. We have a son. I have a 5-year-old son named AJ, and I found that a lot of the same problems that I was dealing with in my first marriage, where the anger was coming out, was now starting to come out in my marriage with her. And all along I think I always knew what I needed. You know, working out wasn't the answer, counseling wasn't the answer, anger management wasn't the answer. I think for me, a lot of it was, I always just kind of knew in the back of my mind, I knew what I needed. I knew enough about my walk with God that I knew what I needed, but I was still very stubborn, still wanting to do it my own way. Unfortunately, the anger came out in my second marriage. But now, in addition to being married, I have a child. And I started to see the effects of that. You know, there wasn't any abuse or anything like that, but it was just, there's this constant animosity. And I really felt like I was kind of sick on the inside, just poisoned with anger, I think is is the best way to put it. In 2009, I had the opportunity to leave the stressful part of my job, and I got into a position that was less stressful, after 16 years on the job. I thought that was going to be the point where, okay, I make a clean break from some of the stress, a lot of the stuff I've had to deal with that I've just bottled up, a lot of the evil that I've had to deal with in my career, and just the negative people and that type of thing. And I was kind of mistaken in that. What I thought was going to be an easier go of things in my marriage especially actually got worse. God works in awesome ways, because at the same time my wife, we sent our son to a Christian preschool. My wife, because she's a stay-at-home mom, had the opportunity to volunteer. And, I kind of was starting to witness God working in her life. And for several years, my wife had been saying, we really should be going to church. We should be going to church. I thought I'd be the one saying that, but I was, just too involved in trying to mask my anger and just trying to do my own thing. It's funny how, really, with hindsight, God, and sometimes instead of God coming straight at you, He'll work around you. He'll start using the other people in your life to kind of open your eyes to what's going on. I talked about it, and in January of this year, I decided, she mentioned Pathway, and so I decided, well, I'm going to go. I didn't even know there was a church there when I first went. And right away, I felt very welcome in there. I felt like I was on equal terms with a lot of the people there. I've never had bad church experiences, but again, I never felt like there was a personal connection between God and I. We've been going ever since. So for me, I think it was really just I feel like I have found a church home for the first time after 45 years.